Some of you may remember the R&R from the last time Seattle played the Coyotes. It was probably just about as mad as I've been at the end of any game, and it definitely showed in that video. But this time, maybe it's the new dad in me, but I'm really not mad. I'm just disappointed. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken, back from their week-long All-Star break, lose to the Arizona Coyotes for the second time this season, this time 5-2 at home. So yes, for those of you keeping track at home, Seattle has now beaten the Florida Panthers, one of the league's best teams, twice this season, and lost to the Arizona Coyotes, one of the league's worst teams, twice. I mean, seriously, what even is this team? For whatever reason, though, this loss just doesn't really seem to sting as much, or at least not in the same way, as that first one of the Coyotes earlier on in the season, which, to me, is still the worst loss the Kraken have had all year long. I guess, for one thing, at that point in the season, there was still some hope that this could be a playoff team. The Kraken, I mean, not the Coyotes. They never really were thinking about the playoffs. On top of that, though, at that point in the season, the Coyotes had yet to come up with a win, as they had lost their first 11 games, so it definitely hurt a little bit extra to be that first team that they beat. And yes, they're still bad, and yes, the Kraken should still be able to beat them, even with Seattle's record not being all that much better at this point in the season, but this game just really didn't have the same feel as that one did in a number of different ways. I mean, for one thing, neither one of these teams is anywhere near being the worst team in the league, thanks to the absolute dumpster fire that is the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, with that having been said, while the general feel of the game may have been different than the first time around, how the Kraken ended up losing it was pretty similar to how they were losing games back at that point in the season, where at one end of the ice, they couldn't get a puck to bounce in their favor to save their lives, making a otherwise average goaltender look like he's about to win the Vezina. Meanwhile, back at their end of the ice, they were constantly making bonehead mistakes, turning over the puck in inopportune ways, allowing odd man chances, and easy goals let up here and there. I don't mean to take anything away from Vejmelka, though, who did have a very good night in net for the Coyotes, making at least a couple of absolutely incredible saves to keep the puck out of the net, so it isn't like it completely stayed out of the net just because of puck luck, but there was a decent amount of that as well. As for the Kraken coming into this game, again, it was their first game in a week with the All-Star break, so there probably was at least a little bit of rust to knock off early on. The problem was it never fully went away as the game went on, so that did become a problem as we got deeper into the game. Plus, they still were without all of the guys that were injured at the start of the All-Star break, so no Alexiak, we still have no timetable on his return. No Susie or Schwartz, we know both of them are going to be out for a while. And still no Carson Kuhlman, who did get injured right before the All-Star break, having only played a couple of games after being claimed on waivers. Which, speaking of claiming guys on waivers, the Kraken did pick up a guy that seems like a replacement for Kuhlman, who was a partial replacement for Tanev. That being 29-year-old forward Austin Czarnik, who the Kraken claim off of waivers from the New York Islanders, where he did put up 5 points in 11 games for them to this point in the season, and does have a bit of a reputation for being another one of these guys who has a motor, especially on a forecheck, and isn't afraid to play a physical game, so another one of these guys, again, trying to fit that Kuhlman or originally Tanev type of role. As he was claimed off of waivers just a couple of days ago, though, he isn't right into the lineup for the Kraken tonight, but back in the lineup is Will Borgen, as Cale Fleury went back to the AHL after spending a couple of games with the Kraken just before the All-Star break. Finally, getting into the game, early on, it is a pretty evenly played back and forth game through the first 4 minutes without even a shot on goal, so pretty different than the first meeting between these two teams where, at this point in the game, it was already 2-1 Kraken. Just past the 4-minute mark, though, the Kraken are sloppy with the puck trying to exit the defensive zone, and Larson along the boards tries to pass it between his legs behind him to a Kraken player for a breakout, but instead, Moser gets a stick on it, putting it out into the middle of the empty open ice, where Kessel picks it up for a one-on-one chance on Grubauer, and he patiently dangles it all the way around Grubauer and finally does get it around his leg and into the back of the net to give the Coyotes the early 1-0 lead. Here we go again. Coming off that solid East Coast road trip that the Kraken had, getting 2 wins in it, obviously that first overtime win and the first shutout win, both of which being pretty fun, but even with the 2 losses in all 4 games playing very well in the first period, which is not something that we have been used to, you might have thought that this type of thing was something that was in the past for the Kraken. Hopefully this is just a one-off and they can get back to coming out of the gate strong like they had started doing. But this does feel like more of the same old Kraken from earlier on in the season. And for the Kraken, who do kind of inflict this one on themselves, again with a sloppy, careless defensive zone turnover, of course, the turnover immediately finds the stick of Phil Kessel, who, although there aren't a lot of players on the Coyotes roster that you have to worry that much about, he is certainly one of the few that you don't want to be giving this kind of opportunity to. And it wouldn't be the last one of the game that he would get. This does seem to wake the Kraken up a bit though, as they start to pull it together and nearly respond quickly going back the other way, as Järnkrok finds Gord crashing on the other side with a beautiful pass, but Vejmelka makes an even more incredible save, lunging from left to right in the full splits to make the glove save on Gord, absolutely robbing him of the game-tying goal. And yes, it's a little weird to see a glove on the right hand of a goaltender, but he's able to make good use of it here and continue to do so as the first period goes on, as the Kraken continue to press and press in the offensive end, getting shot after shot on goal, but they just can't get anything past Vejmelka. Well, that's not entirely true. Gio does get one past him, but it clangs off the post and right into the back of Vejmelka, who's able to fall on it to keep it out. Meanwhile, at the other end of the ice, to his credit, even after giving up a goal on the first shot, though, to be fair, it was a pretty hard situation for him to be put in, and it's not entirely his fault that that goal goes in. Either way, Grubauer does come up with a couple of pretty nice saves to keep this game from becoming 2-0 in the first. And then finally, in the final minutes of the first, a very nice passing play, crisp stick-to-stick up the ice by the Kraken, finally finishes with a Vince Dunn shot that beats Vejmelka, but goes off the same post, and this time out of the net to a Kraken player, so they're able to keep in the offensive zone. But they still just aren't able to get something into the net to tie up this game. The Kraken do get a power play to finish off the first period, or at least the last 19 seconds of the first period, and while they do at least make those last 19 seconds a little interesting, we do get to the end of the first with the Coyotes having the 1-0 lead. The Kraken then do still have most of their power play left to start the second period, and while the power play does spend the vast majority of its time in the offensive end, it's another one of these slow-moving power plays with just slow passing around the outside, looking for shooting lanes but never really finding them, as they're not able to move the Arizona defense out of the position that they want to be in. So ultimately, it ends up getting killed off without the Kraken making too much of it. And then shortly after the failed Kraken power play, they're not even able to keep the offensive zone and the momentum in their favor for very long, as the Coyotes get off a very good shift that nearly makes it 2-0 on multiple occasions. The most dangerous of which is a wraparound chance for Phil Kessel, who has basically an empty net to shoot at, and the only way this doesn't go in is thanks to a last-second stick check by Larson to keep Kessel from getting a clean shot off, and the puck ends up sailing wide of the net. So again, to Larson's credit, while he is pretty much responsible for the first Phil Kessel goal with the turnover, he does make up for it here, being pretty much the only reason that Kessel doesn't score again. And back the other way, it's another grade A scoring chance for the Kraken off of a beautiful, crisp passing play, as Gord makes a nice pass across Vejmelka's face to Eberle crashing on the other side, who shoots on what should be basically an empty net and an easy goal, but Vejmelka adds to his highlight reel, diving back across the net the other direction this time to come up with the splits blocker save on Eberle, absolutely robbing him on what honestly was an even nicer save than the one before it. And for Eberle, much like the start of the season, is back to being completely snakebit, as he seems to have taken over Donskoi's curse. Now, after this game, with 22 straight games without a goal, the longest streak in his career. At this point, the Coyotes get their first power play of the game, which does look pretty good early on in spite of being the worst power play in the entire league. But as we get into the second half, they display why this is the 32nd ranked power play, as it completely falls apart in pretty spectacular fashion, looking about as bad as it could without giving up a goal. A couple minutes later though, Kraken once again playing sloppily. This time it's a turnover in the offensive zone and then a sloppy defensive recovery that allows the Coyotes, and Schmaltz in particular, to get on a partial breakaway, eventually getting off a wide open shot at the Kraken net from the faceoff circle, and Grubauer lets it go off of his glove and into the net. Yes, this is absolutely a save that Grubauer should have made, and it does deflect off of his glove and into the net, but it's also not a shot that should have ever been allowed in the first place, as the Kraken defensively just aren't quick enough to get back on the back check. So once again, a lot like something we saw early on in the season, a sloppy defensive play allows a wide open shot that shouldn't be allowed in the first place. Grubauer also doesn't come up with a save that he should be able to. This time though, Seattle doesn't seem woken up right away, as shortly after that it's a 2-on-1 chance for the Coyotes that is only just broken up at the last second before it can get to Kessel's stick, who would have very easily been able to make it 3-0 had it gotten to him cleanly. And a little bit after that, it's Kessel once again, this time all by himself, skating the puck into the offensive zone, making Dunn look silly to get past him with a very nice move, reminding everybody just how skilled of a player he still is, creating a one-on-one chance once again between him and Grubauer. This time though, Grubauer is able to make the save. However, Dunn draws a slashing call on Kessel, which, it has to be said, I can understand why Dunn was so upset about it going to the box. It's a pretty soft call. Fortunately, this power play, much like the Kraken one, is going to be split up a bit by the end of a period, so that makes it a little bit easier to kill off. And on top of that, this is still the worst power play in the entire NHL, and they continue to display why, really not making anything of their chances to end the second period. So we get to the end of the second with the Coyotes still up 2-0. This, of course, does mean, though, that the Kraken are now going to have to start the third period on the penalty kill, while desperately needing to get an early goal in order to get back in this game. However, they're able to do so, as just seconds into the third period, Gord steals a puck in the neutral zone, gets it to Blackwell, who skates it into the offensive zone, and snipes it between the legs and past Vejmelka into the top corner. Just like that, 16 seconds into the third, the Kraken have pulled to within 1. And not only that, but it's also a shorthanded goal, as it comes right at the end of the Arizona power play that had bled over into the start of the third, which does make it the first shorthanded goal at home in the history of the Kraken. Now, between just you and me, after the game, Blackwell did kind of admit that he wasn't necessarily trying to shoot the puck on net. He was more just trying to shoot it between the defenseman's legs and get it towards the net and see if maybe something happens. But we'll just pretend it was a fully intentional snipe to the top corner that he meant to put in all along. Either way, the Kraken are back in the game. At least for the next minute and a half, because, well, yeah, about a minute and a half later, another broken play in the Kraken defensive zone leads to a shot on goal, which Fleury is able to make a nice block on, but it goes out in front into the slot where only Coyotes are there to pick it up. It's on a Stroman stick and into the back of the Kraken net to give the Coyotes the 3-1 lead. From there, the Kraken really do control the remainder of the third period, even nearly responding quickly to this one, as they get a couple of grade A scoring opportunities and a number of shots off on net. Wennberg tries a wraparound chance that Vejmelka's just barely able to get a toe to keep it out. Then there's chaos in front of the Arizona net, but the puck somehow manages to stay out of it, even with Vejmelka pulled out of the net for the vast majority of it. The whole thing starts with a nice one-time shot from McCann close to the goal that Vejmelka does make a nice save on, but that save is what pulls him out of the goal, and the rebound goes right out front for Johansson, who fans on what's basically an empty net shot, but Dunn crashes in for an empty net shot of his own, but Chikrin's able to get in front of the net and basically play goaltender standing in front of the net, getting 2 blocks that are ultimately saves, swatting the puck out of the air and getting it harmlessly to bounce away from the goal. The Kraken just aren't able to catch a break or get that puck in some way to bounce into the empty net. The Kraken still are able to hold the zone and get shots off on goal, one of which goes off of Vejmelka's mask and gets past him for a second, but bounces off the end of his stick as it's going towards the goal and also stays out as there's some sort of weird force field that's keeping this puck out of the Arizona goal. Finally though, although this whole series somehow doesn't lead to a Kraken goal on a couple of different occasions, it does eventually lead to a Kraken power play as McCann gets tripped behind the net. However, the Kraken power play is just about as cold as any power play in the entire NHL, including the one that they're facing in this game. And while this power play does look a little bit better than the first Kraken power play back towards the beginning of the game, for whatever reason, that quick, decisive passing just isn't there. So obviously the power play is killed off, the Kraken continue to press, but just can't quite get those same high danger scoring chances over the next few minutes that they were able to get in that sequence leading up to the power play. Right up until, with 5 minutes left, Blackwell makes a nice play driving the puck into the offensive zone, eventually dumping it for Johansson, who takes a shot. The shot is saved, but it rebounds out front with Vejmelka drifting to the side to make the save on Johansson. So another basically empty net with a couple of Kraken players crashing towards it. It's Geeky, then Donato that both get whacks at it, but somehow, even with 2 Kraken and a defenseman for the Coyotes, 3 players crashing towards a net that has a puck sitting in front of it with no goaltender there, the puck manages to stay out of it. I mean, at this point, yeah, I'm sure the Kraken did make a number of sloppy mistakes that allowed the Coyotes to score the 3 goals that they have at this point in the game at that end of the ice. But at the other end of the ice, even with Vejmelka having made some nice saves, at this point the Kraken are basically Jack Sparrow in the first Pirates of the Caribbean where he's in the jail cell, the cannonball hits, and the one other guy just says, "I'm sorry, my friend, you've got no manner of luck." Yeah, that's basically the Kraken. They have no manner of luck in this game. So, a minute later, Seattle decides to just take luck out of the equation entirely with a beautiful passing play into the offensive zone, as this night really continues to go back and forth for the Kraken between these beautiful tape-to-tape passing plays and the sloppy turnovers that lead to Arizona chances going the other way, but this time it goes in Seattle's favor as it's tape-to-tape, tic-tac-toe, starting with Wennberg out to Gord, who goes into the offensive zone and finds Yarncroke down the other side. He makes quick work of the shot, and it's into the basically empty net that's created by the beautiful pass by Gord, as the Kraken are able to once again pull to within 1, still with a few minutes left in this game and a chance to potentially tie things up. But as you know from the final score that you saw at the beginning of the video, the late surge by the Kraken does come up short. Grubauer is pulled with about 2 minutes left, and right after he's pulled, Seattle just dumps it into the offensive zone for a puck battle along the boards, which eventually leads to Arizona possession, and a couple of passes later, 1 block, it ends up in the back of the empty net. The net stays empty, Seattle gets 1 more chance, but Arizona once again finds the empty net to make it 5-2, which is how the game ends. And so, there you have it. The Kraken have lost twice in 1 season to the Arizona Coyotes, which, I guess to be fair, this is a powerhouse of a Coyotes team. After all, they are the team that snapped the 18-game home winning streak of the Colorado Avalanche not too long ago. But yeah, ultimately this game does just end up feeling like a bitter taste of the not great team that we saw at the start of the season. I mean, it really did have all of the early season Kraken classics. Sloppy defensive play leading to turnovers and odd man rushes going towards the Kraken net. Grubauer not able to come up with a couple of saves that he probably should have. And then at the other end, the Kraken able to create chances offensively, but just not able to finish them, or at least get a puck to even slightly bounce in their favor even once to find its way into the net. And of course, Eberle getting robbed of a goal that absolutely would have gone in almost any other situation. But I guess on the bright side, well, Eberle is now on that career-long 22-game goalless streak that we talked about. He did at least put a goal in during the All-Star game, so that was fun to watch. And for any of you who got up early this morning, which as I record this is in a few hours, to watch the men's US hockey team, it'll be fun to watch Matty Beniers play in the Olympics and hopefully end up coming away with a medal before he even plays for the team. And if you did get up for this first game, go ahead and let me know down in the comment section how it went and what you thought of Beniers playing in this first game for Team USA. And don't worry, I will be giving Beniers updates as we go throughout the Olympics in these R&Rs. I'll figure out how to work it in here and there. But until next time, we have reached the end of this one, so thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel. And don't forget to stay safe out there, be good to each other, and of course, go Kraken and Team USA.